Guys, in your mind, as you listen, what was the main idea? What presented itself to you as the main idea, the main topic, the main subject matter that the Khatib sought to address? تفضل رابي.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. تفضل شيخ. Go ahead. Just push that gray button at the bottom and hopefully tap it. Alhamdulillah, we're in business.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So it seemed like the main idea for me was a couple of different things. The first being that we are, as human beings, going to die. And that's jumped out at me when he was talking, and he also alluded to just because a culture does something. I remember when you kind of gave this talk about deen versus culture. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you have to do it, such as paying interest on certain stuff, such as drinking alcohol even if it's 0.1%, mm-hmm. and things of that nature. Okay.
All right. Anybody else share Ravi's perspective? Is that your takeaway as the main idea? Anybody else? تفضل يوسف.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
So yes, I did hear with Brother Robert as well. But to be honest, the main objective was a bit unclear. There were main points.
Okay.
For like the chef that he was building on, and being back one of them, and yes, being responsible for as much failure as you can in this lifetime.
Hey.
But you mentioned something, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shaq. Obviously, there's no lifetime. There's no life that we have now. Once we die, there is another life, but it's just not on Earth.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you mentioned there was like people can't go out for you, they get children and their kids, this type of thing. And it can't weigh on the scale for you in a sense.
Hey.
You can explain it more. But it made it seem like there was no life. There's nothing that's gonna happen out there. That's kind of what I was hearing.
Hey. Mumtaz? Anybody else? Main idea. Okay, let me ask you the question. Let me phrase the question a different way. Was there anyone, and we could just show hands, who struggled to determine what the main idea was? If you struggled to determine what the main idea was, okay, a lot of hands there. Okay. All right. So on this point, what I'll say is this. I personally, as a person who was listening, a member of the audience, just like you, I didn't really feel like that there was a main idea. There was a main point that he was trying to convey, a main topic that he wanted to address. I didn't get that sense. I got the sense that he was more concerned with admonishing in a general sense. And the khutbah, one of the purposes it serves is to admonish, right? To be a mu'ila, right? To admonish and to preach, to inspire, to motivate, right? And I got the sense that maybe that was just, let me say some things which will inspire people, that will give them a shot in the arm, maybe, okay? I felt like you said, Yusuf, that he addressed many topics that were not necessarily related. I don't know if anybody else got that sense, that there were many topics and that you couldn't see how they were linked to each other necessarily. And also, this one thing I observed, and this is actually common in certain cultures when it comes to addressing certain things, that I felt that he took a circular approach. So you're circling the topic or circling a topic, but you never directly address it. You see what I'm saying? You kind of circle the topic, but you never directly address it. Some people do that. They like to do that. And some people actually like that approach. Show of hands if you like that approach. I kind of like it if the person just they maybe talk around the topic and they leave it to me to kind of figure out what they should take away. And therefore, the takeaway is relative. What Yusuf takes away is not necessarily what Siddiq takes away, not necessarily what Rabi takes away, not necessarily what Ma'ruf takes away, right? We just what? We circle the topic. Anybody a fan of that? No, not really. Okay, just asking, to be honest with you. All right, all right, let's talk about, so I divided my comments. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try to be quick about this because I really want to hear from you guys for my own benefit. But I divided what I want to say tonight, my remarks, into the good and the not so good. The good and the not so good, at least from my perspective. So let's talk about the good. The first thing I saw was high energy. I like that. I think if you're going to speak to people, you're going to give a khutbah, you can't be monotone, you can't be low energy, you can't bore them to sleep. You can't do that. You got to bring some energy, right? So he did have energy. Also, lots of Quranic citations, lots of Allah said this, Allah said that. Lots of Quranic citations connect people with the Book of Allah, connect people with the Sunnah of Rasulullah. The Imam, his job is to be a conduit. His job is to connect people with what? With Allah's word, with al-wahy. Not to what? Not to make it about what? Himself. I think. I feel. Well, if you ask me, well, that makes sense, doesn't it? You shouldn't be like that. His khutbah, the entirety of his khutbah is what? Giving his opinions. But rather, telling them what Allah said and maybe expanding and explaining what Allah said in his own words to make it more accessible to the people, but making it about what? What Allah said, what his messenger said. So I like that about the khutbah. The third thing I liked was that he mentioned one very important message, and that was the message of purifying the hearts from ill will towards one another. So that was a message that he did mention, and he said it in this way. He said, for our brothers we have grudges in the heart. We have ill feelings for our brothers, for our sisters. We have jealousy. We cannot see someone flourishing, someone getting a good job, a bigger house. We have evil eye amongst our Muslim community. I'm talking about not outside, right? He said, amongst our Muslim community, I'm talking about not outside. So basically, what I'll say about this message is something that I have tried diligently to repeat over and over and over. Every time I get an opportunity to repeat, hey, we need to be together, right? We need to purify our hearts of these grudges. We need to be one ummah. We need to be a community that loves each other. And if we have differences, we need to work through those differences and suss those differences out, etc. and so on. I've tried to repeat it in different ways at different times. And the reason why is because our ability to achieve our overarching objectives hinges upon our understanding and acting in accordance with this point right here. That we have what? We have to cleanse our hearts, we have to purify our hearts. And I really, really appreciated this message, as much as I say it, being communicated by somebody else, because a lot of times if you keep saying something over and over and people keep hearing it from you, they what? They tune you out, right? They become tone deaf. And because of that, I was so happy to hear him say that. Somebody hears it from somebody else, they're more likely, unfortunately, they're more likely to what? To listen. And so I really appreciate it. That was the good. But let's talk a little bit about the not so good. So the Khatib, in the course of his topic, he addressed the issue of voting, and he did so in this way. This is what he said. Today, every single human being, especially Americans, are asking the imams, who should we vote for? Kamala Harris or Trump? Who is promoting LGBTQ? He went on that. He spent a lot of time hammering on that. Then he came back and he said, where are we heading, my elders, my brothers, my sisters? And unfortunately, may Allah forgive this ummah, we are supporting them. We are the ones who give them our consent. That you come and make your government again and you spread this indecency, this immodesty, this fahsha. Quran is saying, إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً, indeed it is indecency. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, do not go near adultery or fornication. It's against modesty, right? So that's basically what he said without a lot of the digressions, right? So a person says, okay, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with what he said? What I'll say is this. This is how I felt about it. I felt like his points were disingenuous and they lacked nuance. They were disingenuous and they lacked nuance. And before I go and explain what I mean by that, I want to say this. I don't have a problem with Muslims differing about this issue. It is a complex issue. It is a highly nuanced issue. And it's an issue where whatever position people take, they have a point. Whatever position they take, they have a point. And we on Sundays, we've discussed this issue a number of times. And we've differed about it, right? And we have all of the possible opinions are represented, right? And we discuss it with civility. And we discuss it with nuance. And we're able to agree to disagree without mocking or belittling or putting down the person who expresses or holds the opposing view. It is wrong, brothers and sisters, in any debate to intentionally misrepresent the opinions of others. Now somebody says, well, perhaps he doesn't understand, the opinions of the other people. He didn't really fully grasp where they're coming from, the people who say whatever they say. But the answer to that is, if you don't understand what a person is saying, then be quiet. Don't express an opinion about what somebody is saying until you understand what they're saying. It's inappropriate. At any rate, it's wrong, brothers and sisters, to intentionally misrepresent the opinions of others and then belittle and mock those opinions which appear flawed due to egregious misrepresentation, not because they're actually flawed. The opinion is not actually flawed, but the way you represent it makes it look really what? Flawed. Then you say what? Oh, look how stupid this opinion is. Y'all see that? It's not appropriate to do that. And I'm going to give you some examples real quick. This is what I'm talking about. You guys remember back, I don't know how long ago it was, it seems like it's been forever, when there was an NFL player, quarterback for the 49ers, named Colin Kaepernick. So he had, in the early part of his career, he had a lot of success. A lot of success. This guy took his team to an NFC championship, then he took them to the Super Bowl, and they lost on the final play of the game, right? And that next year, over the summer, he got consciousness. And he took a lot of issue with certain social injustices, particularly police brutality and the use of excessive force when it came to black and brown people, particularly what? Black people. So he started speaking out about that. And he started wearing certain clothing, which was indicative of what? Of where his mindset was going, right? Where his consciousness was taking him. And then when the game started, he wasn't standing for the national anthem. At first he was sitting, then he met with a person who had previously been in the military and told him that it's disrespectful if you sit. I understand where you're coming from, so maybe a more respectful way to protest is by kneeling. And the narrative that was put out there was that he was protesting the anthem. He was protesting America. And so when he was given the opportunity to explain himself, what he actually was doing, he said, I'm protesting social injustice. Now here's a person telling you with his own words what his intention is. But you never heard the people who criticized him say he's protesting social injustice. They would always say he's protesting the anthem. He's protesting America. He hates the military. He hates the police. And he would come back and say, no, I don't hate the police. I have family members who are in law enforcement. You guys see that? He would basically try to correct the record, but they would just what? And then they would make a mockery of his position that they had misrepresented. You see that? That's not fair. That's not fair. It's what? It's disingenuous. You don't really want to have a discussion. You don't really want to understand where he's coming from and have a discussion, a meaningful discussion, fruitful discussion about what? About where he's coming from and the reason for his protest. You would rather misrepresent his intentions and then what? And then mock him. You guys see that? That's an example. Give another example. Like protesters in this country. No matter what they're protesting. It could be workers protesting wages. It could be certain individuals and groups protesting the killing of an unarmed motorist. You guys see that? It could be people protesting how people who come from south of the border seeking asylum in this country, how they're treated, right? You got little kids in cages wrapped in foil, sick from certain diseases, curable diseases or treatable diseases, sick, some of them dying from those diseases, like living in these little cages, sleeping on concrete floors and not having some of the basic necessities like diaper and formula for the extremely little ones, or basic cleaning and hygiene things for what? For kids, right? I say all this so people protest that. And then people will say something like, if you don't like it here, leave. I'm going to ask you honestly, the people who are protesting a wrong, an injustice, are they saying they hate America? They hate it here? It's an awful place? They're saying what? This thing is what? This thing is wrong and we need to do something about it. And it's not consistent with our what? Our values. Or the values that we claim to have. But rather than us having a true and honest and genuine conversation about where these people are coming from and whether they have a point or not, we do what? We misrepresent what they're saying. If you don't like it here, leave. Nobody said they didn't like it here. They're saying what? They don't like the things that are what? That are being done here, there, or wherever. So I'll give you one last one. The slogan of the Palestinian resistance movement. Anybody know what that slogan is? In English or Arabic? What's the slogan of the Palestinian resistance movement? I say it.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Ahsan. Go, Ravi. Inshallah alayk. All right, so from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. The people who criticize them, the people are the enemies, really, they're not the enemies just of the Palestinians or the Arabs, they're the enemies of humanity. They're the enemies of anybody who's not them. Anyway, those people, they say that what is meant by that is the annihilation of all Jews. Is that really what it means? That's not what it means at all. Exactly. It means Palestinians were free. We see ourselves as what? We see ourselves as in prison. And we want to be what? Liberated. Emancipated. That's it. That's what it actually means. That's what the words actually say. But they interpret it in a way that makes it seem like it's evil. Why do they do that? Because they don't really want to have a true and honest discussion about the grievances of the other party. They want to paint them as what? As the enemies, as evil, as malicious, as someone who what? They can't be given a chance. Because if they were given a chance, this is what they would do. You guys see that? I say all this to say, coming back to the point, it's wrong to intentionally misrepresent what somebody is saying in order to what? To win the argument, to make their argument seem flawed or foolish. You guys see that? Now I want to come back to what he was talking about, voting. And if you're voting for what? For LGBTQ. That's the only thing you can be voting for. You can only be supporting them in their quest to spread their indecency. That's the only thing you could have on your mind. That's the only thing you possibly could achieve. That's the only thing you need to be concerned about. Again, this is disingenuous. There's a lot at stake and a lot and imams. I think few people who hold the extreme opposite view. And there's no harm in holding that view. I understand the reasoning for that view. That view being we shouldn't vote at all. Okay? The reasoning for that, or I get it. But few people who hold that view appreciate how some imams, many imams, and I count myself among those imams, are highly conflicted when it comes to this issue. And why are they conflicted? Because they're worried about not really studying the issue from all the angles and giving their community the most nuanced, the most accurate advice given the circumstances. They are really afraid of that, really afraid to tell them, don't vote, don't vote, don't vote, just don't do it, just don't do it. And then there being what? Repercussions, consequences that people in your own community suffer because of what you told them. And then they come to you and say, Imam, you told us this. And now look what happened. Y'all see that? This issue is an issue of ijtihad. It's an issue where there's no hadith, there's no ayah, but it's scholars studying what? Studying the collective body of texts and trying to determine what is the most correct thing and the principles of Islam and the spirit of Islam, and trying to determine, okay, under these circumstances, when you got a person on the other side and what they stand for, and you got history with that person, knowing what they are capable of, and what they're claiming they intend to do, openly saying what they intend to do. And you have something called Project 2025, which is linked to him. People who work with him authored it. There have been times where he's been quoted as praising him. And all of the harm that comes in that, you're aware of all that, right? And you're trying to say, okay, I can't predict the future. But if this person were to be elected and this thing actually happened, how could it affect my community, individuals in my community? And do I have a duty, a responsibility to what? To try to protect them to the best of my ability, to give them good advice, give them good counsel. Can we do this, Imam? And give them the answer, which is what? Most accurate, based upon what? The proofs and evidences and the principles, right? And while you say that, you have your own understanding and your own feelings about the concept of what? Democracy and voting, and you're confident that in the original case, these are bad things. But there's exceptions to every rule. Is this the exceptional case? There's indications that it is, and you want to give what? A nuanced answer. Highly conflicted. And then you have somebody come when you give that, after all your research and reading, and you give the advice that you give, and you have somebody come and say, oh, you support LGBTQ. They oversimplify and misrepresent what it's about. It's a lot more on the ballot than just that, right? And there are bigger issues than that. And if you have to, also our religion is based upon weighing between the harms and the benefits. There's so many things that go into this discussion. Not just what? Not just this one thing. So I say all this to say that I just felt that was inappropriate. And to put it like that, and to oversimplify, and to misrepresent the opinion of the other person, right? If you're against it, say you're against it. Say why you're against it. But to belittle and to mock and to accuse, we just don't do that. And the early Muslims weren't like that. When the early Muslims differed on a matter that was very ijtihad, it was based upon deductive reasoning, analogical deduction. If they differ with the other person, they would say, you're wrong. I believe you're wrong, but they would not assassinate their character. They wouldn't accuse they wouldn't question their intentions. You're a munafiq, right? You're trying to destroy the deen from within. You're with the non-Muslim. They wouldn't do that. That's not how they behaved. So I didn't think that was appropriate. That's number one. Number two, from the not so good. The Khatib, he encouraged us to love everyone. I don't know if you guys heard that part. He said, a heart that is free from hatred. I don't know where hatred came in Muslims. I hate him. What? You're a Muslim. You can't hate anyone. You have to spread love. This religion of Islam spreads love. My brothers, my elders, my sisters. We cannot have hatred for anyone. Allah gave us a religion that spreads love. We don't hate anyone. He kept saying that. We don't hate anyone. We don't hate anyone, whether they are Democrats, if they are, and this is the thing, somebody would say, oh, you're talking about Muslim. No, because he says what? Whether they are Democrats, if they are Republicans, if they are the Green Party, we love everyone. We don't have hatred for anyone. This is not consistent with the teaching of the Quran. Not consistent with the teaching of the Prophet. Not consistent with the teaching, the understanding of who? Ashab Rasulullah. The people who understood the Quran and Sunnah the best. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Surah Al-Mumtahana, the 60th chapter of the Quran, verse number 1. He says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَتَّخِذُوا عَدُوِّي وَعَدُوَّكُمْ أَوْلِيَاءَ تُلْقُونَ إِلَيْهِمْ بِالْمَوَدَّةِ وَقَدْ كَفَرُوا بِمَا جَاءَكُمُ الْحَقِّ يُخْرِجُونَ الرَّسُولَ وَإِيَّاكُمْ أَن تُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ رَبِّكُمْ. O you who believe, do not take my enemies and your enemies as friends, showing affection and having affinity for them, giving love to them. You can't give love to who? To the enemies of Allah and the enemies of your own selves. While they have disbelieved when it has come to you of truth and have expelled you and the messenger from your home simply because you believe in Allah, your Lord. Then Allah doesn't stop there. 3 ayat later, ayat number 4, he says, قد كانت لكم أسوة حسنة في إبراهيم والذين معه إذ قالوا لقومهم إنا براء منكم ومما تعبدون من دون الله كفرنا بكم وبدا بيننا وبينكم العداوة والبغضاء أبدا حتى تؤمنوا بالله وحده. He says, you have the best example in Abraham. What does that mean? It means what he did is the right thing. And you need to what? You need to do what he did. What did he do? You have the best example in Abraham and his companions when they plainly said to their people, we free ourselves of you and your false deities whom you worship besides Allah. We renounce you. And hostility and hatred has been ignited between us and you forever until you believe in Allah alone. Allahu Akbar. Allah is telling, follow their example. Hate the people who disbelieve in Allah. ثم بعد ذلك, the Prophet said in the hadith, من أحب لله وأبغض لله وأعطى لله ومنع لله فقد استكمل الإيمان. فقد استكمل الإيمان. He said, he who loves for Allah's sake, hates for Allah's sake, gives for Allah's sake, and withholds for Allah's sake, has completed his faith, has achieved complete faith. The Prophet doing what? Encouraging the believers and telling them, you won't have true faith until you love in accordance with what? Allah's love and Allah's will. And you hate in accordance with Allah's love and Allah's hate. If Allah hates somebody, you hate him because Allah hates him. ثم بعد ذلك, we have the statement of Ali. Shows you Ali, one of the best of the Muslims and the best in terms of what? Understanding the deen of Allah, the 4th caliph. Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said, أحبب حبيبك هونا ما عسى أن يكون بغيضك يوما ما وأبغض بغيضك هونا ما عسى أن يكون حبيبك يوما ما. He said, love the one you love moderately. Perhaps you will be required to hate him one day. And hate the one you hate moderately. Perhaps you will be required to love him one day. Y'all see that? Saying what? There's going to be times and people that you have to what? You have to hate. Now, the thing we have to note that's different from the way we operate as Muslims, the way our religion operates, is that even though our religion tells us that some people you have to hate them, people, not see people say this all the time. Hate the deed, don't hate the person, right? Hate the game, don't hate the player, right? No, there's some people you have to hate them. Y'all see that? But the difference in our religion is our religion tells us, hey, you got to hate these people. But it doesn't authorize us to act hatefully. It doesn't authorize us to act hatefully without what? Express divine permission. And within certain what? Within certain guidelines. Y'all see that? That's the difference between us. See, when other people hear, oh, the Muslims hate somebody, they think about us the way what? The way they operate when they hate somebody. When they hate somebody, they act hatefully. They put signs that say white only. Right? White only. Or the white water fountain, the black water fountain, the white bathroom. And they behave, they act hatefully. Y'all see that? So they think, okay, if you hate somebody, you're going to act hatefully. No. Our deen says, no. You hate them, but don't act hatefully except what? Except as authorized by Allah and in accordance with what? The guidelines of Allah. Can Muslims poison the well of the people they hate? No. Can Muslims drop bombs indiscriminately on the people they hate? No. They think when you say you hate, that you're going to do what they do. No, we don't do that. Our religion has what? Has dawabit. It has rules and regulations. Y'all see that? That's the difference between us and them. We hate, but we don't act hatefully without what? Without Allah's permission. And in accordance with what? His guidelines. From the not so good, the Khatib, he said that those who disbelieve are animals. Y'all remember that? Y'all hear that? He said they are animals. And he recited the verse from Surah Al-A'raf, where Allah says, أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ. He translated the verse as, they are animals. No, they are worse than animals. That's not what Allah said. If Allah said they are animals, He would have said, أُولَٰئِكَ الْأَنْعَامِ, or أُولَٰئِكَ أَنْعَامِ. Allah said, أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ. They are like, they resemble, they get on, they behave like animals, but He didn't call them what? Animals. So the more accurate translation is, those, they are like animals, they behave in a manner similar to that of animals. Nay, they are even more misguided. They are the heedless ones. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they are like animals, what does He mean? He means they don't concern themselves appropriately with the afterlife and attaining the rewards therein. Do animals get rewarded in the hereafter? No. So they're not concerned with what? With that. And these humans who are going to be held accountable in the hereafter, they act like those animals. Like there's no judgment. But there is. They're too concerned like animals with what? With eating and drinking. Animals are concerned with what? With their continued existence. Y'all see that? With self-preservation. Some human beings are only concerned with what? With that. Eating and drinking and shelter and clothes, and that's it. No. Don't be like what? The animals. You have a higher purpose. Then Allah says they are worse. What does He mean they're worse? He says they're worse. Why? Because the animals, they know Allah. And these kuffar, they don't what? They don't know Allah. The animals worship Allah. And some of these kuffar, they know what? They don't worship Allah. You see that? That's what He means by what? They're worse. And this verse has to be interpreted in light of the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Isra, where He said, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. وَحَمَّلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. Indeed, we have honored the children of Adam, mankind, and blessed them with the modes of transport on land and sea. Honored mankind with what? What do animals not have that man has? Intellect. And also what? The ability to communicate in complex ways. You see that? In myriad ways. And the ability to what? To distinguish and differentiate. That's how Allah did what? Honored man. Also, man does what? Stands upright. Man, animals what? Crawling down on all fours. Y'all see that? Allah honored man in that way. So men are not animals, even if they're what? Kafara. They have certain what? Certain status with Allah, because what? Because they're human. And it's dangerous, brothers and sisters, it's dangerous for us to say things like this, one, because we'll be misquoted. Our religion will be misquoted. People say, oh, the Muslims say the Jews and the Christians and all the non-Muslims are animals. Well, we don't say that. That's not what Allah said. That's number one. Number two, we sound like who? We sound like a Yahud. When October 7th started, their defense minister and others amongst them went on record saying that the Palestinians were human animals and we're going to treat them accordingly. And you see what they're doing to them. They've gone on record calling them rats and snakes and this, that, and the other. What do you do to rats and snakes? If I found a rat in my home, you know what's going to happen to him. Y'all see that? And so it's dangerous for us to speak with that language because what? There's a natural implication that comes with that. If we start saying, oh, they're animals, they're worse than animals. Y'all see that? And our religion doesn't even say that. We're misquoting the Quran, misquoting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to be very, very careful, especially in this time where there's a lot of scrutiny. That doesn't mean that we can't say the truth. But we got to be careful not to say what? Falsehood and attribute it to what? Our religion, and give people a reason to criticize us or give them ammunition against us. That's what I have from my remarks and what I wanted to share as far as my own critique of the khutbah. I would love to hear your thoughts, positive and negative or indifferent about the khutbah. If you loved it, tell me you loved it. Maybe we can bring him back again. And if there were things that you observed, let's hear about those. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد. I don't want you guys to be quiet now. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear honestly. Give your honest opinion, man. And again, we're not critiquing the person, the personality. We're critiquing what? The product. Creating the product. That's it. And there's nothing wrong with this. Everybody can be criticized. Everybody can be critiqued. And so nobody should be shy. Nobody. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. Nobody's going to say anything. Tafadhal Muhammad, yes. Take the mic, brother.
Yeah, Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, I want to say, after today, does that mean we won't welcome people from now on?
No, absolutely not. I'm actually glad you asked that question. My general policy is if somebody asks to come and give the khutbah, and we don't have any reason not to welcome them, we always give people the benefit of the doubt. We assume the best about them. We'll invite them, and one reason I do that is because I feel like you guys need a break from me sometimes. I think you guys get tired of me, and I don't want that to happen. And sometimes you need to break the monotony and hear from a fresh voice. And so that's like one of the reasons why I encourage it. I kind of encourage it. And so we're not going to say that we won't invite other people. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying I said there was good and there was not so good, right? I'm just saying there was some not so good, and that I have a responsibility too. If somebody gets up there and says something wrong, I've got to set the record straight. At the end of the day, I'm ultimately responsible. And so we're going to invite, inshallah ta'ala. But if somebody gets up there and says something wrong, best believe we will not be quiet. We will not be quiet. Was that the only question you had, Muhammad, or you had more than that?
Did you talk to him after the
No, I had the shahada, remember?
Yeah, oh.
And by the time I finished, I think he was gone, yeah?
He would make the same thing like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe he'll watch. I don't know. Maybe. Hey, brother. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Don't take offense, brother. Just Tafadhal, Muhammad.
So, the beginning stuff that you mentioned, the introduction, when you started the khutbah, it was way different than other khatibs.
Okay. Wallahi, the preface, the scholars of Islam, there's a difference between what is required and what is recommended, what is acceptable and what is most appropriate. So the scholars of Islam, when they talk about the preface and the things that a person should say, they talk about alhamdulillah, right? That there should be some hamd, some praising of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There should be some hath ala taqwallah, that you encourage people to have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say this is the requirement, what's expected from the khatib when he gives his khutbah. He had that. He just didn't follow what we would call the preferred method, which is the preface of the Prophet. Khutbah al-Hajj. Khutbah al-Hajj, this is how the Prophet opened every address. Right? And we say, Khairul Hadi Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The best way to do anything is the way the Prophet did it. You see that? But that doesn't mean it's the only way or the only acceptable way. So, he praised Allah. He encouraged us to have taqwa of Allah. Taib khalas. He did what he was supposed to do. See what I'm saying? He might not have done the best thing, but he did what? He did the bare minimum. Taib. Anything else? That's it? You sure? You look like you had a lot to say, but you don't want to say it. Astaghfirullah. Like, Abdullah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi. Okay, now Abdullah, you can't talk for 30 minutes. All right, I'm just letting you know, brother. Go ahead and say what you got to say. Get it out concisely.
I think, in my opinion, always that this is a normal part of Qur'an in Pakistani, Indo-Pakistani society. So what I was saying is normally there is a consensus because we thought you have the go ahead to check the script before he do it.
Yeah.
It's based on our consensus because we thought we already him what he's supposed to do.
Uh-huh.
That's how the format is here.
Hey.
They have to be informed. Otherwise, even if they have the format is different from the format people understand.
Hey.
That's my other.
Oh, there was a little.
We hold you responsibility to do.
Hey.
You
Okay.
should require.
So two things, Abdullah. The first one, I felt that there was some ethnic prejudice. I felt there was some like, very, very deep ethnic. A joke. Abdullah, calm down. So there was a lot of ethnic, prejudice and failure to be inclusive in your first part of your statement. The second, one second. The second thing, Abdullah, is as far as holding me accountable, you're 100% right. I'm accountable, and that's why we're doing what we're doing right now. Yeah, because if somebody says something wrong, trust me, I feel responsible for that, and I'm gonna address it. Brother, Dr. Ismail.
Assalamu
Wa alaikum salam.
Dear brother, you have to be careful in branding somebody's presentation as that of India and Pakistan.
Wow, he felt it too, Abdullah. He felt it.
There is huge diversity in
Hey.
India and Pakistan, more diversity than what we have seen in other places else.
Hey.
So let's be careful, brother.
Mashallah.
It's not branded. I think that's where I think we kind of we cross the line. So
You're going to have to go to human resources now, Brother Abdullah. You got to have that talk. They're going to give you that talk about diversity and inclusion, brother. تفضل معروف. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
I think I have experienced some places when a new person is going to give khutbah. I think somebody will be here, I think he went to the process before. I think he submitted his lecture, whatever he's going to lecture, and then he sent it to the imam. And I have seen the imam going through it and taking something out of it.
Hey.
You're not doing that for me, right?
No, I don't take that approach. I don't think that he had a script. I don't think he had a script. I don't think he had a script at all. He didn't have a script. I don't think I think even if I had asked him that, if I had asked him that, he probably would have said, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm just going to talk about this in general. Maybe he would have had a general topic, but he wouldn't. He did not have a script. That's one thing. The second thing is that I really believe in two things. One, giving people the benefit of the doubt. Two, giving them the same courtesy that I would expect. If somebody invites me, I don't want them to tell me, hey, you got to send me what you're going to say in advance, and I'm going to go through it. And I wouldn't appreciate that, so I'm going to give them the same courtesy. I'm going to trust that you're going to say the right things. But what I will say is, if you say the wrong thing, I'm going to have something to say about it, because ultimately I'm responsible for the messaging. I'm responsible for the messaging, and if the messaging is wrong, I will correct the record. And so that being said, that's how I approach it, Maruf. Because like I said, for me, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming that you're a scholar or you're an imam and you're well trained. And number two, so you're not going to say anything that's wrong. And number two, I want to give you the same courtesy that I would expect. And me, that's another thing too, is I think we try, I'm not saying you're going to succeed at this, but we should try to not say anything controversial, right? We don't know what the lay of the land is. We don't know so many things. We don't know what the other khatib has said or whatever. And so, there's a lot of things you can say which are not controversial. There were some things that he was talking about death and getting ready for the hereafter. And these are good messages, right? Just stick to that, right? But some of these other things that he said, some of them were just wrong. Love everyone. And some of them, like I said, it was disingenuous and lacked nuance. Oh, if you tell people to vote, then you're voting for what? LGBTQ? No, man, we might be voting against Project 2025. We might be voting against immunity for law enforcement. 100% immunity. Man, come on, man. Without 100% immunity, look at the stuff they're doing. What if they had 100% immunity? Nothing they do could be prosecuted. They could not be prosecuted for anything they do. That's a concern. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that people are considering when they talk about this. Should we do this or should we not do it? And it's a nuanced discussion. It's not that simple. And we have to respect all the viewpoints. I have people, like I said, we talked about this on Sundays. In the mornings, we talk about this a lot. You know that, right? And we have the people who say, man, we shouldn't do it at all. We have the people, no, we should vote uncommitted. We should vote Green Party, right? Third party. You got people who say, we have to vote for this party because we got to stop this other person. And if we vote for this, the third party, what you're doing is you're helping this person get elected. Like, you have all of these different perspectives, right? We talk about it. We talk about it with civility. We respect each other's opinion. And we might leave this discussion agreeing to disagree. Nobody's attacking anybody and saying you're a munafiq, right? You're in support of. Nobody who supports any one of these candidates, Allah knows best, from the Muslims, is supporting LGBTQ. Why are you saying that? Why are you making that claim? You know, it's just not true. It's disingenuous. And so, yeah, got to say something about that. You see what I'm saying? Got to say something about that. Got to speak to those points. And so we do that. And, you know, we do the best we can. We do the best we can. I really try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I really try to give you guys, you know, different approaches, different presenters. Somebody who might يحرك قلبك أكثر مني. What matters to me is what? There's somebody who wasn't praying and might have heard something from him and start praying. You see what I'm saying? I'm really concerned about what's best for the community. And sometimes, you know, I leave the hall and I'm not happy. I'm like, oh man, I wish I hadn't brought this guy, right? But if he says something wrong, trust me, here we are, right? Here we are. It'll be addressed. Any other things? Any other questions? Because Tafadhal, Abdul Malik. And the sister's just not going to say nothing, huh? Just birds on your head. I see how it is. All right.
Yeah, I was listening to you on YouTube about your voice is different from your voice.
Really? Is that good or bad?
Now, from the Islah that I did on the khutbah, the khatib, and I like the approach. You mentioned the fawaid from the khutbah before you meet the Islah. Meet the khatib, alhamdulillah, very eloquent and made some reasonable points for deep, alhamdulillah. Again, those things you mentioned, for me, they were because when the issue of loving everyone comes, then I was thinking, أين الولاء والبراء?
Exactly.
So, first that was what got to me. Then the verse, كالأنعام. We know what the calf is doing.
Exactly.
So Allah did not say an'am, said كالأنعام.
Exactly.
And when you use the word adult, it's just making your comparison in terms of, you know, the way animals behave and the way this people behave. And I mean, you pointed out. What I just want to say here is what you're doing, I mean, it shouldn't be misconstrued by saying maybe one is attacking the individual. I think it's about the deen. It's called Allah, called Rasul, called Sahaba, because the Sahaba, كلهم, they will always be on what Allah says and what Rasul says. If we try to, you know, like you said, when you try to say, you know, touch everything in the small time that you have, sometimes sometimes you make some mistakes, you know, and that's so I just want to make that clarification that whatever you're explaining here is not attacking the khatib. Those things that are in there, because the issue of wala or power is a very serious topic, hating another person of Allah. It's part of the aqidah, it's something that Muslims should definitely understand. And also, if one is doing the tafsir of an ayah and you badil, that's also something that is very, very serious.
Dangerous, very dangerous.
I want to point that out, that what the Imam is saying is, if you say something that is based on the kitab, there's no very stuff, just move on. I said, then, mashallah, you know what you said, it makes sense, it's graphic, kitab or something. But if it goes against that, this is what the scholars used to do. They will try to correct those mistakes, not really attacking the individual. So, Allah subhanahu wa easy. And lastly, the issue of the LGBT, I mean, the voting that Khatib said. I would implore if you have the opportunity to speak to him, maybe because of the short period of time he has, I think on that, it might be very difficult to come to a conclusion on what he's trying to say for me. Even the word of love and hate, I was thinking maybe he's talking about the Muslim until he mentioned the word
Republicans and Democrats, Green Party.
That's when I know that now it's a different meaning from. Because before I was thinking, okay, between the Muslim, he's a Muslim. Like the kuffar and the likes, there are rulings on that, and you quote the ayah and some verses that are not fair. That's just what I was saying.
Yeah, I just want to stress and emphasize, to hammer home what Abdul Malik said, and we said it at the outset, and I said it throughout the talk. We are critiquing the product, not the person, not the personality. Does not have to do with the personality, it's the product. We're not criticizing, nobody's questioning his motives, nobody's questioning his intentions, nobody's questioning his character, questioning anything other than what? The product. This is what was said. This is what Islam says, which is in opposition to what the person said. We're correct. We're dealing with the product, not the person. Anything else? Going once? Going twice? تفضل مصطفى.
The program was good for it. I like it. The way he presented the conversation is good. Except the mistakes he did. But you should talk to him because, he traveled from state to state.
MashaAllah.
And believe me, the same khutbah he might say it otherwise. You should talk to him.
Khalas, you know what, Mustafa?
Well,
You're right. You're right. Okay, I'll tell you what. Is it fair if I send him this? If I send him my notes?
Yeah.
All right, that's what I'm gonna do. I got his email. I got his phone number. I'm gonna send him my notes, and he can do whatever he wants to do with it.
And another thing, what you do is good. I'll tell you, you're one of the best khatibs I listen to. The way you do it, it's not everybody can do the khutbah. It's not given to anyone, right? And it's good to take you to invite people when they come. It's good. Once a while, you say changing the voice.
MashaAllah.
Just to break the routine sometimes. Well, MashaAllah. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Mustafa. Shukran laka. All right, with that, we'll get ready for prayer. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاك الله خير.